You wanted upgrades in the trenches. The Bears are giving you upgrades right now. 2 big signings on the defensive line. It's an emergency pod. We're reacting right now on the CHGO Bears Podcast. Welcome into an inevitable emergency pod today. Signed off from the bigger show earlier. We knew we'd be back, and in classic Bears fashion, they made 2 big signings since we signed off there. Adam Hoge, Mark Carman, Greg Braggs Jr. will join us in a little bit. He guaranteed this would happen by leaving.
Yeah, I mean, literally 3 seconds after we got off, Justin Fields signed with the New York Jets, and now the Bears have added 2 more players. Wow.
So Dayo Odeyingbo, the edge rusher from the Colts, and then perhaps more surprising and significant, we'll see how it all plays out, but Grady Jarrett from the Atlanta Falcons released this morning. You know, there was a belief here this morning that a brief fear that the Falcons releasing Grady Jarrett this morning meant that they were going to have enough space and ability to bring back Drew Dalman. And instead, both Drew Dalman and Grady Jarrett are now on the Bears.
Yeah, and Grady Jarrett is one of the more beloved Falcons of all time. This guy, drafted by Atlanta, decade down there.
He's from Atlanta, too. He's a hometown kid.
Right, all of it.
Yeah.
Wanted to stay there, but apparently they went back and forth on whatever deal was possible, and Grady said no, and here he is, the long lost 3-tech, man, plus somebody you can get to the quarterback, an all-time name, and Dayo Odeyingbo, Ryan Poles, you are cooking, sir.
Without a doubt. This is a big deal, though, and he's 31 years old. Grady Jarrett, 3-year, $43.5 million deal, so this is, again, not nothing. Now, here's the deal with Grady Jarrett, who has been one of my favorite interior defensive players in the league for a long time now. Grady Jarrett has been doing this for a while. You might have questions about his durability at his age. Those questions would be fair. However, a lot like Joe Thuney, he has been very durable throughout his career, save for an ACL tear in 2023, which cost him pretty much half the season. This is a guy that pretty much plays every game and most of your snaps. It's not a whole lot of rotating Grady Jarrett out. And he is a real NFL player. 2-time second-team All-Pro, so maybe not quite to the Joe Thuney level on the offensive side, but this is somebody who, and by the way, he bounced back from the ACL, played all 17 games last year. So that's notable too. So there's a lot of evidence here, like with the Bears acquiring Joe Thuney, that he's got at least a couple more seasons in him. That was a 3-year contract. Of note, all the contracts today, 3 years. Once again, how many years are left on Caleb Williams' rookie deal? 3 years. Just keep that in mind. Always planning for the future, always trying to give you as much flexibility. And most of these deals you can usually get out of after 2 with somewhat of a cap hit involved, but we'll have to see what all the details are and the exact structure. But Grady Jarrett, this is a real football player. I mean, this is a guy that immediately upgrades the Bears' defensive line. It's a lot of money. It makes me a little uneasy. I would have loved Grady Jarrett 3 years ago compared to right now, but I'm supporting this signing. I think you're going to at least get a pretty big boost from him. Just picturing him and Andrew Billings next to each other. It's going to be hard to run the ball against the Bears, and this is somebody who gets in the backfield. He's still got that quickness. I just pulled up some tape from him against the Chargers last year. Guy can still play.
Listen, anytime you get into your 30s, there's risk. But anytime you haven't had a 3-tech for 5 years, and Andrew Billings was looked at in this town like he was the second coming of your standard all-pro in the middle of a defensive line, they needed help here, and who knows if Billings is going to be healthy. And this is a little bit. I'm sure Javon Dexter Sr. is not exactly feeling the love at this particular moment. Still here and a piece in this, but you're absolutely right. I mean, Jarrett's going to play a lot of snaps, man. So, but you're upgrading. You're bringing also. I mean, this is a first class character guy too, very well respected. How much does he have left in him? He's betting on himself. Ryan Poles is certainly betting on him as well. And again, $28.5 million guaranteed. So both these 3-year deals are really 2-year deals. So there's, right now the money is ain't much left for this year. Maybe they, are going to have to get a little bit creative here. But look, as far as long term, they haven't given up a ton of flexibility, at least after the next 2 years.
Yeah, I see some questions in the comments about where the money's coming from because, just on the surface, APY, it seemed like after the Dayo Odeyingbo signing, the Bears were kind of tapped out in terms of cap space. But remember, the way the signing bonus gets spread out over the course of the contract. So once you see the structure, it'll all make sense. But this is definitely the Bears using their cap space. I mean, they are tapping into this. They're not going to have as much financial flexibility the rest of this year and even, probably next year. But the cap's going to continue to go up and up.
And look, the cap is not a hard cap. You float around up there. You find the money. You figure out how you're doing it with guarantees and whatnot. I'm sure there's some very smart people at Hallis Hall that figure, hey, if we do this, this is what it's going to look like. We have to do it this way so we can fit in a new 3-tech, a new edge rusher, a new center, 2 new guards.
Yep.
Bears have been busy. It's probably going to calm down from here. But the roster, you had problems on the offensive line. 2 years ago, our debate, well, which is worse, the offensive line or the defensive line? Well, which of they improve more, we can debate now, the offensive line or the defensive line. I think the answer is the offensive line, but that's a lot more of a fun conversation.
Yep, and we will bring in Greg Braggs here in a minute. Also want to remind people, we have an awesome Die Hard deal going on right now with the start of free agency. You can get in for a full year of our Die Hard content, including Fran Duffy's amazing draft guide for just $36 today. Go to allchgo.com/intro. allchgo.com/intro to get that introductory offer today. Also want to quickly react to the Dayo Odeyingbo signing before we bring in Greg, and then we'll get his thoughts on both. But this is a different signing. I mean, this is if the Bears went out and traded for Trey Hendrickson, that's like signing Grady Jarrett to a big deal at 31 years old. This one is Dayo is 25. He's a guy that's considered with upside, former second-round pick out of Vandy, who kind of had a slow start to his NFL career, then started to pick it up in his third year, and then last year became a full-time starter. Now, the sack numbers, not quite there. He only had 3 last year, but the pressures were at a much higher level. And, by the way, it is Odeyingbo, courtesy of our guy, JJ Stankovich, who is the PA voice of the Indianapolis Colts. And he gave me a little bit of a scouting report on him, too, just from his time watching Odeyingbo. And he says, strong, versatile, love him with Dennis Allen as a bigger defensive end. He can kick inside as a 3 technique. Pass rush numbers don't tell the whole story because the Colts secondary struggled at times. And so the quarterbacks were able to pick them apart with quick passes. Get the ball out quick. You're not going to get sacked. That's always going to suppress some sack numbers. JJ thinks he's closer to 5 to 8 sack a year type of guy. And also good run defense as well. So, again, we're talking about starters here. Bears, just like they did on the offensive line, they are adding starters. They're paying them starter money. And the thing about Odeyingbo, too, it's $16 million a year. That's not nothing. It's also not $30 million. It's not the top end pass rushing numbers we're seeing around the league. It's half of that. And so if you can get a young guy who can, continue to blossom at 25, you might get some value out of this.
You you go to the YouTube and you watch his highlights, and I think it's pretty obvious why you could see that Ryan Poles was interested in him. He plays all over. He can play outside. He could play him inside, hand in the dirt, and he is crafty. You see spin moves. You see speed moves. You see force. Yes, you also see, when you look at the stats, numbers that you want to see come up. But again, 8 sacks 2 years ago, that's you would obviously take that. And look, the Bears needed somebody else who could get to the quarterback. And if Trey was becoming a little too rich for their blood in his 30s, and who knows if you could get him, period, and maybe the price for the trade was too steep, whatever it was, the Bears obviously made a pivot here. And just from if you look at just the talent, the athletic ability, there's a lot there. So Dennis Allen, hello. Obviously he's got to be on board with this too. So this is a bet on your ability to evaluate. This is a bet on somebody. This is not this guy's been there and done that. This is the opposite of what's going on as far as Jarrett is concerned, and Artuni. This is somebody like, we think there's a whole lot more in that gas tank, and we're going to make this bet.
Absolutely. All right, let's bring in Greg Braggs, who braved it into the studio today and couldn't leave fast enough when we were done. He's now back home in his studio.
Is he in the wheelchair? We don't know.
I'm not in my wheelchair. Now I'm in a chair that has wheels, but not in my wheelchair. Of course, yes. Took the gamble. Hoge and I were talking about it after the show. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. And of course, Jenny and I get on the highway to get back to the house to get, things in order back here. And then news immediately starts breaking as soon as the show ends, and as soon as we get halfway down the highway. So whatever, we're here. We are officially getting trench drunk, which is where I was dubbing this offseason a couple weeks ago. Well, we are full-fledged trench drunk right now, with some quality Sam Adams, and it's feeling good. I know that for Bears fans, when they brought in the defensive lineman from Indianapolis, he's not somebody that's going to jump off the page. I know Josh Sweat, got a deal from the Cardinals that was under $20 million a year, and so that frustrated some Bears fans. But as we were talking, Carm, to end our last show here that we did here just a little bit ago, when somebody asked about James Pierce and bringing him into the fold, the point I made about James Pierce is, while he is very talented, he doesn't really fit stylistically and traits-wise what Dennis Allen is looking for a defensive end. If you look at the guys that he has had throughout his tenure in New Orleans, they want bigger guys. And James Pierce is a guy that's like 265 pounds. They want somebody that's going to trend around 285, 290. Now you get this guy in here from Indianapolis, 6'6", 286 pounds. He's going to set the edge, right? And as J.J. Stankevitz and others that have followed the Colts have said, he has an ability to get to the quarterback. He did have a ton of pressures on the quarterback last year, so it isn't just about sack totals, it's about pressures. So I know everybody's going to look at this signing and say, oh, well, why even cut DeMarcus Walker? This is the same player. To me, that feels a touch lazy. Obviously, this guy is much younger. I mean, DeMarcus Walker's going to be 31 years old, whereas, Dayo is going to be 25, 26 years old. So you get a younger player. He fits the mold of the Dennis Allen scheme. And so, and as you said, Dennis Allen, we are banking on the evaluation of Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen, identifying who they need in the trenches to execute what they want for their system. So, first and foremost, that move, and then obviously to double down for, Grady is to me exciting. Just start checking the boxes, and let's start getting best player available opportunities in the draft.
All right, we got to talk about a breaking news story here that does not involve the Bears, but it's big enough that we have to address it. And a huge trade going on right now is the Texans are trading Pro Bowl left tackle Laramie Tunsil to the Washington Commanders.
Wow.
So it's notable because the Commanders aren't really going anywhere, and they're a team the Bears have to play this year. and they just got better on their offensive line, adding one of the best left tackles in the entire league, who has been for a while, Laramie Tunsil, who's been traded before, of course. According to Ian Rappaport, a little confusing, but he says a second rounder and a fourth rounder to the Texans, plus a third rounder this year.
It's a lot for a 30-year-old, but he's obviously still doing it.
Okay, he just corrected it. This makes more sense. A second rounder and a fourth rounder next year.
Okay.
To the Texans, plus a third rounder this year. I figured there was a typo in there, the way that was worded. Houston sends back a fourth rounder. It's really not all that, but it's not even.
So a second and a third in essence for a third this year, a second next year. Is that right?
It's a second and a fourth rounder next year, a third rounder this year.
Okay, and they're getting back a fourth.
They're getting back a fourth.
Forget the years. Second and a third for
Laramie Tunsil.
For 30, going to be 31-year-old Laramie Tunsil in his third is going to be his 10th year in the league. Listen, I think you got to start getting creative when the cap keeps going up, but the prices keep going up massively here. So I think you're going to just continue to see more trades like this where teams are going to make shorter investments, give up draft picks because they really have no choice. There's no way you can pay. You could never do it, and you can't do it now. You can't pay everyone when the prices are this and fill out a roster. And this is to restate the overly obvious, huge draft for the Bears too, to complement what they're doing in free agency and trades.
All right, Greg, what about Grady Jarrett? What's your reaction on that one?
Well, obviously, like you guys said, I mean, he's been a mainstay in Atlanta for a long time now. What, a decade? Now you get him to come in here. I think this obviously signals Zach Pickens, you are clearly on notice, right? They're going to have a rotation of Gervon Dexter, Andrew Billings, and Grady Jarrett here. And that, I think, solidifies the interior of the defensive line. I still think it'll be interesting if we get to 10, as we were talking about our hypothetical scenarios of whether it be Mason Graham or Will Campbell or Ashton Genty at 10. Maybe this is for a segment later in this show, but I think all of a sudden that conversation now gets very, very interesting. I think what I'll say about both these guys is both are just 3-year deals too, right? So, if Hoge, you're probably better at breaking this down for me, but yeah, it's big money. There's no question. This is going to take a big hit to their cap, but I don't think this is anything that's going to that impacts them long term in a way that they still have all their draft picks. I know we talked about potentially trading for Trey Hendrickson, but I just think these are two very solid picks, and you bring veterans in, and Dennis Allen now has an opportunity to, as I've said, set the edge, make sure you stop the run, bottle the quarterback in, and let your secondary go to work. That's what New Orleans defenses, when they've been at their peak, have been what they are. And they turn over at a high rate. Their secondary can make plays, man coverage. And I think that speaks a little more to what Jalen Johnson and Tyreek Stevenson's best equipped at. And so if you have a defensive line you can trust, which last year the Bears didn't really have that, I think maybe they're trending in that direction now going forward.
I could play some devil's advocate for you for just a second if you want. Let's look at the money here. You paid Jarrett. Grady Jarrett got $28.5 million guaranteed, so that's 14, right? Dayo Odeyingbo gets $16 million a year guaranteed. That's 30. Okay, Trey Hendrickson's going to go for somewhere about 35. So would you rather be paying $5 more million?
Wait. Your math, whatever you were doing there, made no sense.
Why did that make sense? He's getting, I'm talking about for 1 year. So a 1-year contract.
Okay.
I'm saying that you're paying off the guaranteed money in 2 years. Okay. So, right? So 28.5 divided by 2 is 4.
That's not exactly how it works, but.
You want to do it by 3 years?
Just do the APY and make it simple.
Oh, that makes it simple, the APY?
It does. Average per year. It does literally makes sense to everybody, including Greg.
Okay. So let's do the average per year on guaranteed or on the overall?
Just overall.
Okay, on the overall. 43.5. We'll just make that 15 a year. Does that suffice for you? 15?
No, that's not math.
Do you need 14.5?
14.5, yes.
Okay. All right. This is the same. The point remains the same. I'm gonna kill both of you. Would you rather have Trey Hendrickson for a little bit more, but for an
double?
For not double on the two of them.
Oh,
I'm saying you take.
We're doing the old Roquan Smith 2-for-1 situation.
That's what it is.
Exactly.
That's what it is. Let's not. This is not rocket science. Would you rather have Trey Hendrickson for, call it, $5 million more per year than Grady Jarrett, Dayo Odeyingbo, and you also have to give up a second-round pick? Which is your pick? You're giving up a second-round pick. You've got Trey Hendrickson, or you have your second-round pick, and you've got Grady Jarrett and Dayo Odeyingbo. What are you picking? I think most Bears fans would have taken Trey.
And then I would ask you, Carm, are they one player away? Before all these moves were made, were the Bears one player away?
No team is ever one player away.
I'm asking you the question, dude. What? Yes
and
or no?
And then I reversed it. Reverse Uno card.
He just reversed you.
No, so that's standard Bragg's not answer the question.
I'll answer your question. I'll answer your question. I think I would have gone Trey Hendrickson.
Right.
But I don't think it's a slam dunk. And I also like that I like that Dayo is younger.
There's a lot to there's a lot to like. You have your second round pick. You have he's younger. I think in 3 seconds watching him, you can see why the Bears wanted him. And you have a 3 tech too. But like
what round
these
was,
are definitely
what round was,
go ahead.
What round was Trey Hendrickson drafted in?
4th round.
Relevancy? What am I missing?
I'm just saying, like you said. I'm sorry, Hoge, you cut out. What did you say?
4th round pick.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like you're saying you'd take Trey, but you can get your Trey Hendrickson in the 2nd round.
And you can get Tom Brady in the 6th. I hate that logic. Because one guy drafts an all-pro.
Well, at some point, the Bears have to start. At some point, the Bears have to start getting their own guys through the draft, right?
Yes, of course. They better have a big draft. I've said that way too many times.
And you just brought in 2 guys that are veterans or have been in the league, and so it's close. It's close to a wash. I'm not gonna. If they had traded for Trey Hendrickson, of course we all would have been excited. But that doesn't mean that what they've just done here makes it bad for the team. This Bears team has more holes. Like, quit looking over at Hoge for your instant gratification, Carm. It's the truth. Like, you're just going to twist it however it is to fit your narrative. You just said this was a bad roster all season. You've been mad at Bears fans that have been trying to tell you that this roster's closer. Now you're saying that the roster is worthy of trading for Trey Hendrickson, giving up a 2nd-round pick, not having 2 extra guys along with it. So which one is it? It's either it's a bad roster that has many holes that needs 2 guys and a 2nd-round pick, or it's a roster that's 1 player away and can trade for Trey Hendrickson and go for 10 wins next season.
I'm staying in the moment of what just happened today. Okay, Trey was very much rumored that perhaps the Bears would be interested. They've obviously pivoted away from that. They have signed a veteran, 10-year nose tackle, incredibly well respected, for $15 a year, and they've also gone out and got an edge from Indianapolis for $16 million a year. They have kept their draft picks. These are the choices that they made. So I'm doing the exercise of what they could have if they had gone all in for Trey. I would have been, to your point, Braggs, I would have been nervous about that too. But this is what they've done. Now we actually know at least to some level, the options here. This is what they've chosen. So I'm not trying to take any of the excitement away from you at all. I'm just trying to talk about which path the Bears have gone down, and does it make sense? And you certainly can make the argument that it does. But
well,
I don't know,
obviously these guys have to work out. We understand that. Yeah, I think Grady Jarrett, you know what you're getting from more so than Dayo from Indianapolis, who still has more to prove. As I said, I think he fits the mold of what Dennis Allen is looking for on the edge. And as Sam Heiler is saying here in the chat, I feel fine with Shamar Stewart at 10 if we can't trade down. Well, Shamar Stewart, it's like the same thing as Dayo from Indianapolis. Not a guy that's got any numbers in terms of production, but fits the traits that fit a Dennis Allen system and edge. So, like, if you're going to complain, if anybody's out there questioning drafting Shamar Stewart, then, or saying draft Shamar Stewart, then you should be fine with bringing in a guy like that from Indianapolis that has the same traits, is my point.
To your point, and also Oompa Loompia's 723 point, best player available at 10 on the board, man. They can do whatever they want. To me, that's the most exciting thing about what's happened so far. They've got tremendous flexibility in the draft and 3 picks in the top 41.
All right, we have more to discuss here on these 2 big signings that the Bears have made. We need to get to a break here, though, and thank some of our sponsors that let these emergency podcasts happen. So let's talk about Sam Adams American Light. Light beer just got better. Sam Adams American Light, clean, crisp, super easy to drink. No gimmicks, no fluff. Sam Adams American Light is not your average light beer. It is brewed with 100% American-sourced ingredients from local independent farmers. It is light beer that's made right. Because light beer should not feel like a compromise. It's an American classic so smooth, you'll want to crack open another one. It is always Sam season. Light beer just got better. Grab some of Sam Adams American Light. Available now at select Chicago retailers. Must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
Do you like wings? Do you like chicken sandwiches? Do you like 3-techs? Do you like the Hooters girls? Do you like $6 cocktails with a Absolute, a Bacardi? That's right. Every day at Hooters, get one of their legendary margaritas. So sweet, so tasty, so cheap. Yep, you guessed it. $6 all day, every day. Hooters is always right there for you with the delicious food and the affordable drink that is harder and harder to find nowadays. Hot wings, cold beer, your favorite cheerleaders, the Hooters girls, ready to rock and roll for you. Hey, this is what you do. You go to one of the 11 Chicagoland locations in Aurora, Countryside, Downers Grove, Joliet, Lansing, Melrose Park, Oak Lawn, O'Hare, Orland Park, Schaumburg, downtown on Wells Street in the beautiful Old Town area. Or you can order online, pick them up, originalhooters.com, originalhooters.com. Shout out to our friends at Hooters who's been feeding us incredibly well since they jumped on board here. We appreciate them.
And if in case you missed it, we had a full show earlier as free agency started. All the Drew Dahlman breakdown is in that episode, and these are all available as a podcast, as always. But if you're watching live right now, maybe you're here for the first time, please hit subscribe. We do a Bear show Monday through Friday, usually at noon when there's not news breaking. But we have emergency pods every time the news dictates it, which about a year ago, there was a big one, and it was Justin Fields being traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Today, he signed a big contract with the New York Jets, which we haven't had a chance to react to because that was the first news that came out the second we ended that show earlier.
2 years, 40 million buckaroos. I remember a wise man once on this show said, you know what, if you all want to keep Justin, 20 million a year, 4-year extension, anybody want to do that? Because Lord knows if he goes on the free market, I don't know if he'll quite get that level of money. And today he literally got the $20 billion a year to be the new starting quarterback for the New York Jets. Pittsburgh didn't want to make him a starter. The Jets did. They gave him a lot of money, not relative to what starting quarterbacks in the NFL make today. But this is a great opportunity for Justin to go and prove he's a starter, and he's still super young. The huge contract that everybody is shooting for would find him there. But I think more important for Justin, he's going to get a chance to be a starter and play.
Which I've said many, many times on the show. I think he is capable of being a starter. I don't know if the Jets are the best landing spot for him to succeed because that feels more Bearsy than it does Steelery. But you know, I hope it works out because, like I've said, I the Bears made the right move last year, but that didn't mean I didn't think Justin Fields was capable of starting in this league. I said it multiple times down the stretch. I thought the Steelers should have used him more. I thought they should have used him in the playoffs as Russell Wilson was going in the tank and clearly struggling. But clearly, and I do think it is notable that after having him in the building for a full season, the Steelers still would not commit to him as their starting quarterback. Like that's gotta matter in the evaluation at least a little bit. And then the Jets come in hard. So it'll be interesting to hear who else was interested in him, because it didn't seem like there was a huge market for him, and then all of a sudden the Jets swooped in and paid him a lot. So that tells you there was at least one other competitor. Otherwise, they wouldn't have needed to do that.
Right. Well, I mean, the Steelers wanted him, but they didn't want him as you are our starter.
It sounded like they wanted to run it back the same way they did last year.
Right.
Like maybe we'll bring in Aaron Rodgers and we'll sort of let them fake compete, but we're going to default to the veteran and until it goes poorly. Well, it doesn't seem like a great strategy. I don't think it worked out. I mean, it worked out in the sense they still made the playoffs this past year, but I don't know. The Steelers got to come up with a better solution here long term.
I mean, he gets to step in there, and Bears fans can say, look, and more, I guess, specifically Justin Fields Bears fans can sit there and say, hey, Aaron tried to save him, didn't get it done. Justin came in there, made him a whole lot better. Fields greater than Rodgers. Fields, we own you.
Well, that's the opportunity I thought they had to give him this year in Pittsburgh. So, look, I'll tell you right now, if he goes on to the Jets and plays well, which I'm not going to lie, seems like a stretch, not because of anything with Fields, mainly because it just doesn't seem like a great fit to me in terms of, but he does have his former teammate there he's going to be throwing the ball to, in Garrett Wilson. So maybe there'll be something there that works out. But, if he does, in Pittsburgh, they're going to be like, yo, what the hell? This guy was sitting here the whole year. We didn't even give him that opportunity as Russell Wilson went in the tank late in the year. Like, that's going to be a bad look for the Steelers if it does play out well for Justin.
100%. And who's the Steelers starting quarterback? Are you going back to Russell? You bring in
they got to figure that out.
I actually think Russell Wilson would be the perfect for them now, because he has one of the highest deep pass rates in the NFL. And what do you have? You have two wide receivers that excel on deep passes.
Yeah. He also knows DK.
Yeah, 100%. Greg, your reaction to the Justin Fields news today?
Yeah, I mean, that was the one team that I think we thought, Justin Fields had the best chance of getting an opportunity with. I probably was surprised by the number that they gave him, but at the same time, happy for him, first and foremost. And I think when you look at what Aaron Glenn is going to try to build there, the first word that comes to my mind when you make a signing like this is you're looking for some toughness, right? And so you come from Detroit where they run the ball and, they have a toughness mentality. Now you bring Justin Fields there. Obviously, they're not the Philadelphia Eagles, but you saw what the Philadelphia Eagles were able to accomplish on offense with the 29th passing ranked, attack with Jalen Hurts. And while Jalen Hurts is, ahead of the curve of anything Justin Fields has accomplished in this league, I think you can look at what they did offensively and say, we can try to do some of these things that they did for Justin. Let him run the ball, let him be who he is. And, and like I said, just try to institute some toughness while you're building your franchise from the ground up if you're Aaron Glenn. So I definitely was a little surprised by the amount of money, but at the same time, I'm excited for him and I'm excited for T3P. I know this is a big day for him, and we are going to wish him well on his way to New York.
Don't leave us, T3P. Don't listen.
Nah, you can go.
Yeah. Probably already gone.
Hey, Mark Gauthier, our guy, $50 super chat jumping in here. Says, hi, boys. What a week. Bears are transformed. And this morning, I got CHGO email that my renewal for the third year was confirmed, and I have a free T-shirt waiting. Bear down from Easingwold, England. The draft is going to be fun in April. Our guy, Mark.
Goat, you're fun. You're almost as fun as the draft, but you're absolutely right. April is looking oh so smiley. Will they go for the top tight end? Will they go for a running back? Will they add on to the offensive line? Will it be another edge?
Let's talk about it all right now.
I think he's kidding, but I would.
Yeah, I am, because we have a month and a half to break down every aspect of the draft, which we will do. Today's about free agency. And I want to point this out, too. I think it's interesting. Aaron Glenn is now the head coach of the New York Jets. Aaron Glenn, Justin Fields was a handful for Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, no.
You know, when he was the DC of the Detroit Lions. So I think that's interesting, and I do like Aaron Glenn. I do think that was a good hire for the Jets to get some respectability and some normalcy maybe in that organization a little bit. And so here he is, Justin Fields replacing Aaron Rodgers. Who would have thought?
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
In green and white. Go Justin. Hey, listen,
I'll be rooting for him.
First class.
I'm absolutely, especially now that he's in the AFC, or I mean, he was last year as well. But like, as long as you're in the AFC, I'm happy to root for all his success there.
And we will not see him next year.
Yeah, that's
2
true.
years. 2 years from now, I think the Jets come to Soldier Field.
All right.
So if he's still there,
I'm going to bet he will be.
I don't.
Real fast, I just want to get because it's a big day for Bears fans. Grady was in the chat here with a $10 super saying that. I mean, when Grady pops back in, we haven't seen him in a minute. The Bears are back. I think it's a big deal. The excitement is real, man. The roster has been restored. Anything. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the Bears over/under total is going into the season after the draft, right?
What was it last year? It was 8.5?
It was 8.5.
That's 7.5 2 years ago. 8.5. I'll bet you it's still 8.5.
Well,
I don't know if it goes up.
That's
3.5
up from the 5 they won.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think, I mean, obviously Joe Thuney is, his reputation speaks for itself. Maybe Grady Jarrett does for fans that, pay attention to the league across the board. But none of this is like, signing Myles Garrett, right? But I just think the Bears are trending towards this moment where they don't just have players that fill holes, but they have depth. And now when you add from the draft, you can potentially, if you hit on draft picks, get to a point where you have quality depth. And so, for me, that's exciting. I don't know where you think this is going next, Adam, like looking at the cap. I was talking with my buddy David on Twitter about where the cap sits now. And he said from over the cap, based on the AAV over the 3 deals they made today, the Chicago Bears have $13.6 million left in salary cap. And that's included with what they already have to pay their rookies. So like that's set aside. So it's rough math. So don't completely quote me on it, but let's say that number is correct at 13.6. Like, what do you think they can do with the rest of it? Or will they leave that number alone to, protect themselves as they get deeper into the offseason? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is I'm not worried about the cap really at all because, first of all, there's still some space there. And on top of that, as we've talked about, you can always fudge the cap. I mean, you can restructure guys. Now, I don't want to go too deep down that. I don't think the Bears are at the point where they should be doing that. And I want to bring up, I don't think this is the exact situation. But in 2020, the Bears sort of shifted under Ryan Pace, and they're like, we're going to go big in free agency. We're going to start signing these guys that are over 30 years old. And it backfired and ended up being the situation that Ryan Poles had to clean up. Now, there was one big key thing that happened in there that I don't think we talk enough about that really helped create that mess, and that was COVID. And the fact that the following year, for the first time, and really the only time in the last 20 years, as this cap has kept going up and up and up and up and up, it happened to be the 1 year where it dropped significantly. And that created a mess that the Bears had to then restructure. But I don't know if you guys remember that offseason. They had to restructure 5 contracts the weekend before free agency just to be cap compliant. And then the following year, everybody was fired, and then Ryan Poles had to come in and make moves like trading Khalil Mack to kind of clean all that up. So the Bears are at this spot where they're much healthier with the cap. I don't want to necessarily see that number come all the way down to 0 right now. But even if it does, there are ways to fit, to still create more room. And I think there's two things that are notable here. One, you always got to be prepared for something like COVID to come out of nowhere. But that really shouldn't happen again. And instead, the cap should do the exact opposite. It should keep going up and up here and there. And as we pointed out a couple times on this emergency pod and earlier today, all of these contracts are handing out. They're 3-year deals. These aren't 5-year deals that are going to kill you against the cap. It might make things a little bit tighter the next couple of years, but it's not going to kill you.
And I'm not exactly sure how they're structured, but it's like 3-year deals that are really 2-year deals would be my guess. Mm-hmm. So we made that point a couple times that the flexibility will be back sooner than later. So
I'm more talking about flexibility for the rest of this offseason. This is day one of free agency. I don't know what other moves. I mean, I know people in the chat have said third wide receiver. I know Josh Reynolds and Tim Patrick are two names that have been thrown about because of their correlation to Ben Johnson. I'm not against that kind of move, even if you still want to draft another wide receiver later in the draft. So, I mean, you have 13.6. Maybe you can extend Kyler Gordon. Maybe you can restructure Montez Sweat or DJ Moore, somebody of that ilk, just to try to extend your number a little bit here. I think you're always going to leave a little wiggle room with your salary cap in the event you need that money later in the offseason or even into the regular season. So, to me, I'm just kind of curious where this goes next, just in terms of free agency. Because obviously, I think the bigger story, just in terms of bolstering your offensive line, bolstering your defensive line, as we've said a few times, but I do think should be illustrated at some point in this show, is how much creativity and how much leeway they now have with that number 10 pick. It makes it really exciting, just as a Bears fan, what they can do there. And so, I don't know, just step by step. I know you said we got a month and a half to talk about the draft, so that's fine. So I'm just trying to understand what's next in free agency and then looking ahead to that number 10 pick.
Well, and just recapping, by the way, if you're just joining us, I don't know if people are kidding or not, but getting in the chat, like what's happened. The Bears signed edge rusher Dayo Odeyingbo from the Indianapolis Colts, $16 million per year, $32 guaranteed.
Make Greg say it.
Yeah, what's his name?
Dayo Odeyingbo. I have been scared to say it.
Yeah, our Kevin Fishbane tweeted out when it happened, 17 quarterback hits last season, which would have ranked second on the Bears for the record. Shout out to the Fishman, who's getting ready for the Cats in Minnesota later in the week. And then about 5 minutes later, the Bears signed former now Falcons Pro Bowl defensive tackle Grady Jarrett to a 3-year, $43.5 million deal, $28.5 million guaranteed. So $3.5 less guaranteed for the 31-year-old who's been a very productive player, but also had an ACL tear in 2023 and has had 4 sacks combined in the last 2 years. Of course, playing inside as well.
I want to ask you guys a question. How does this Grady Jarrett signing affect Javon Dexter and Andrew Billings? Is this just a 3-man rotation where everyone kind of stays fresh, or is someone getting a little bit more of the snaps than the other guy? Who's the odd man out?
Good question.
Well, Billings is the odd man out in terms of not Billings. Dexter would be the odd man out in terms of who's starting. I think Grady Jarrett's a 3 technique. And so I you don't have to worry about Billings' status because the head coach that just got hired came in and was like, Billings was the key difference maker that made their life hard 2 years ago. And then when he was hurt last year, the Lions could run all over him. So Billings is your starting nose or 1 technique. And then, Grady Jarrett, you sign him to this money, is your starting 3 technique. But I do think that Dexter, Dexter's where he should be with those 2 other guys. He has not proven I like him, but he has not proven to this point that he is a full-time starting good 3 technique. And part of that's the get off. Like, you'll notice just the difference between Grady Jarrett and Javon Dexter when it comes to their get off and how quickly they give the ball. But I do think Dexter, I think this is fascinating to see what Dennis Allen thinks of him and how he uses him, because he might be able to play him between both spots. and sort of have him be the backup in both positions.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Billings got hurt last year, didn't make it through the season. We just talked about Jarrett had an ACL tear. Like, well,
that was 2 years ago, but yeah. And just sorry, I should have mentioned Chris Williams too, because they did tender him the other day, so he's kind of your backup nose too.
Right, but as you line it up across, okay. I mean, Odeyingbo, followed by Jarrett, followed by Billings, followed by Montez. I mean, that feels a whole lot better. You would think that the Bears, at least their ability to stop the run, is going to be massively improved. How good is Odeyingbo? Can he get to the quarterback? Because if he's good, and I'm telling you, like, you watch him. That dude is crafty, man. He's fast and he's athletic. So, and this is hopefully going to be a huge opportunity playing with him and Montez. So, maybe he can pop big time. Obviously, the Bears are making a big bet that he will.
All right, let's take a quick time out here. We got more sponsors to thank here on our emergency pod. Got a lot going on. And, as we're scouting, we're doing the scouting thing. We need binoculars at times.
We do. Right on, we do.
We go to Right On Optics. They're the only binoculars we even talk about because they manufacture and they sell scopes, sights, binoculars, other similar products. No matter what outdoor activities you prefer, it's always important to have the best view. Right On Optics offers a full range of optics products so you can see clearly. And everyone can use a good pair of binoculars. You just need some better views at your kid's sporting event. So you might want to do what Greg does on a daily basis. He likes to look at birds and wildlife outside.
I mean, when you can't move around, the only thing you can really do from that palatial estate in the region is just to look outside and try to find them.
And now that we have a new cat in our residence, that's what we're doing in the sunroom is doing the scouting on the birds in the backyard, 100%.
A little tip there, put a bird feeder right outside, like whatever your biggest window is, and the cat will just sit there all day and entertain you. It's free entertainment. Anyway, Right On Optics. Hey, if you're like Carm and you think the 300 level is better than the 200 level for some reason, maybe it is. If you bring your Right On Optics to the game, you could see better from the 300 level. Then it's like you're in the front row. Hey, Right On Optics has been around for over a decade. Every product receives a full quality control inspection. It's a great product. So check out the full line of Right On products today at rightonoptics.com/CHGO. That's Right On Optics, RITON optics.com/CHGO.
Right on. And you know what makes looking through your Right On even better? That would be our friends at Cornbread Hemp THC. That's right. It's America's first ever USD organic THC gummy. The mission at Cornbread is to improve the quality of life with the highest quality hemp. This is the good stuff, and it's a healthier way for you to enjoy happy hour. The THC gummies from Cornbread Hemp, just absolutely perfect. You don't want the hangovers. You're looking for that alternative to alcohol. Try yourself some Cornbread Hemp THCs, the gummies that help you enjoy the fun without the guilt or the regrets. It's just, you want to feel good the next day. Give it a try. The THC gummies, America's only USDA organic THC gummy. It's made with the real THC, no synthetics ever, 100% legal, fast and free shipping on every order. More chill than the thrill. It's designed to help you unwind and relax. This is what you want to do. Special offer for you, the CHGO listeners. You get 30% off your first order. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO. Use that promo code CHGO at checkout. One more time, cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO. Use that code CHGO. 30% off your first order. Cheers to the healthier happy hour. Maybe Ryan Poles is having one today. A little happy hour for the Bears GM. Working hard over there.
I hope not. He's got a lot more work to do. All right. Let's go around the horn here. I want to ask Steven actually first. Which of these big three moves today, these big three signings for the Bears, Drew Dahlman, Grady Jarrett, Dayo Odeyingbo, is your favorite?
It's got to be Drew Dahlman. Just having someone sturdy at center that could how many times have we seen snapping issues 2 years ago with the Bears? We got a guy that knows what he's doing. He's got a guy that could protect Caleb, really. I mean, that's what this is all about. This is about protecting Caleb. And Drew Dahlman's the guy that's going to do it. He's going to snap properly. It's not asking much, but that's something that we needed here in Chicago. And it solidifies the O-line where I don't really – if they don't draft anybody else in the O-line, I think we're okay. I couldn't have said that, this time 4 hours ago.
Right. Whereas I think on the D-line, you could still justify adding a first-round pass rusher. Greg, same question.
Yeah, I mean, like I said 2 weeks ago when we ranked our biggest needs for the Bears, center, Drew Dahlman, my favorite move of the day, just to go on top of what Steven said right there, not just protecting him, in a pass blocking sense, but protecting him from the line of scrimmage and the things you have to identify at the line of scrimmage and getting the calls out and reading who the hot is and getting your protections in line and motioning your guys and getting the cadence in and getting the call in and reading the front. These are a lot of things last year that were problematic for Caleb Williams, albeit with a coaching staff and a play caller and Shane Waldron that, really had a rough time himself in his own right. And then Thomas Brown was there to pick up the pieces. So obviously you hope Ben Johnson is able to, get him up to speed in a better way this summer. But now you have a veteran center that can take a lot of that food off of his plate where you can let Caleb Williams just go out there and play and not have to think about as much in terms of responsibility and just use his God-given talent that we all know he possesses and go out there and make plays because he is a playmaker. And then on top of that, a guy that, I do think fits the zone running scheme if that's what they're going to continue to do here. And we don't know until we get to it. But if you're going to keep DeAndre Swift, you got Joe Thuney, you got you got a center that fits that as well. And I think that overall, those are things that'll match stylistically what you're trying to do running the ball. But that's still yet to be determined.
Carm?
It's an easy answer with Drew Dahlman. I would never push back on the center that the Bears absolutely needed. And I also think I'm going to have a new best friend in Grady Jarrett. I think we're going to become buddies. Going to be one of my favorite guys in the locker room this year. And I love the future for Jeff Joniak with Dayo Odeyingbo. Are you serious? Whatever. Are you ridiculous? Whatever.
You want to hear JJ say it?
Yeah, let's hear.
This should work.
Let's hear.
I hope this works.
I mean, when Odeyingbo busts through and Joniak gets to scream about him, it's going to be sweet.
All right, let's see if this works. This is we asked JJ Stankovic, the PA voice of the Indianapolis Colts, to call his name as if he just made a big TFL on third down.
Dayo Odeyingbo.
Imagine that. That's who we have, Braggs. We got Dayo Odeyingbo, buddy. You're going to be dancing.
That is why. That is exactly why JJ Stankovic is a legend, and we miss him dearly here in Chicago. Look at that. That was great.
But like everyone else who leaves Chicago for other teams, he's worked out pretty good for him.
Yeah, he seems like the happiest guy on the planet getting out of here. I'm going with to answer your question, Hogue, I'm going off the board with pick number 10 and pick number 39 and pick number 41 because all of a sudden
that wasn't an option. That was not an option.
I made it an option. I'm being you. I made it an option. It's my option. I'm doing what I want to do. And so it's the flexibility that they now have in the draft that excites me the most about today.
I mean, I get that, but I think they had that anyway. But I'm going to pivot to that here in a second.
They have more of
my
that
answer, this is going to surprise nobody. Drew Dahlman. It's got to be Drew Dahlman. I've been begging for a center for years. They got a center. I'm so excited about it. The whole interior offensive line is better. It should be better for Caleb Williams. I made this point on the show earlier today, too. Our first show, Caleb Williams, for all of his strengths, one of his negatives is he is not the tallest quarterback in the world. So to solidify the interior of that offensive line, reduce the amount of pressure that's going to be right in his face, I think is a really, really good thing. So Drew Dahlman is my favorite of the big three signings the Bears have made today.
What about the last two?
How many penalties did Drew Dahlman have last year? Because the one thing we were saying about Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson is, and obviously Jonah Jackson was injured, so it's in more limited snaps than Thuney. But Thuney only had one penalty last year, and Jonah Jackson had 0. So how many did Drew Dahlman have? I'm trying to add this number up. He had 3. So 4. We just got 3 interior offensive linemen and 4 penalties between the 3 of them all season long. Whereas each guy probably had 10 apiece. So that to me, when you talk about veterans coming in, discipline, execution, those are the key words that I'm looking at with the additions they've made.
All right. Next question as we go around the horn, and let's see if we can follow the rules on this one. You only get to say yes or no. Ashton Genty, number 10.
Starting with me?
Yep. Already lost.
Yes.
Already lost.
I said it anyway.
Braggs?
No.
No.
No. I'm a no. Okay, I'm going to do it again. We're doing it again. We're doing it again, Greg. No, I'm trench drunk with you, man. Let's do shots. Shots in the trenches. Steven, Tyler Warren.
No.
At 10. Greg.
No.
Carm.
Hells yes.
He wants it so he can have his comeuppance because he brought it up a couple weeks ago.
Of course, it's about me. Don't you know that?
I'd prefer with a trade
That's
back.
fine.
As I break my own rules.
Yeah.
I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
Yep. No, that's fine.
At 10, if I'm sticking at 10, if I'm picking at 10, I think I'm sticking with best trench drunk player available.
No,
How do we
trench
abbreviate that one?
Yeah. I have just texted Cole that you want Tyler Warren, just so you know.
Wow.
have you ever heard of the two?
And he didn't even just say yes. He said Hills yes.
Did you hear about those two tight ends in New England? I believe they won a Super Bowl with them. That wouldn't look too terrible here, would it?
I mean, one committed murder, but sure.
We don't need the murder part. Ideally, no murder.
Ideally, we don't draft a murderer.
I don't know Tyler Warren. I guarantee you that Cole's not going to kill anyone. So I think we'll be okay.
I don't know.
That's just an example of. Listen, I want good players. Draft the best player. We've said it 100 times. But that's what they could do now.
Did you guys see Baldy's breakdown of Tyler Warren over the weekend?
Did he go nuts?
Oh yeah, he showed up everywhere. How you line him up? He's like, if they ban the tush push, you just put Tyler Warren in there. He could throw it. He could catch it.
His highlights are nice.
He punted. He quick kicked it once.
His highlights are nice. Dude, it's
so
nice.
So now I want to flip it on you, Hoge, and ask you to dial this up because to end our last show, free agency show just a little bit ago, you guys were on the Mason Graham train. We were talking about Mason Graham versus Will Campbell or Ashton Genty. So now I'm going to flip the same question on you, and I'll start with you, Hoge. Now with the addition of Grady Jarrett, if Mason Graham is there at 10 with Will Campbell, who are you taking?
That's a tough one. I think I still go Graham, though, because Grady Jarrett's 31. I mean, look, the reality is of these – yeah, Grady Jarrett's not going to be here in 3 years. And so if I can look, D linemen, you got to rotate. Offensive linemen are expected to play every snap throughout the whole game. But D-line, you're always going to have a rotation. So if it comes down to push comes to shove on those two players, now I'm not done with my Will Campbell evaluation, by the way. So it's a little bit of an incomplete answer here because if I get done with all the tape I'm going to watch on him, because he checks all the other boxes outside of arm length, and if I feel comfortable with him at tackle, then I'd probably still go tackle there. But I think where I am right now, I'd go Mason Graham because you're going to have to rotate those guys, and you're giving yourself a long-term option beyond just this sort of short-term splash I think you're going to get with Grady Jarrett.
Yeah, that's a tough call. How good is the left tackle? Is he dominant? Well, then I'm taking him. How good's the three tech? The Bears could use either one. The thing about the left tackle though is I mean, look, the Bears used a third-round pick last year on Karan Amagaji, all right? And they had to know that last year was going to be a redshirt year. So unless you just were doing that pick just to completely throw it away, that's an interesting competition come training camp. It's also very nerve-wracking, I'm sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is what it is with him and, Austin Booker. They both are well within their right to be much better players than they showed in their first year. It's their rookie year. So nobody's writing them off by any means. But once you get a full year to look at a guy, you have to be realistic about what their ceiling is, right? And I think Karan Amagaji, I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna allow him to show the world he can be a starting left tackle. He's well within his rights to do it. But from what I saw last year, now, again, it's not a fair shake. It was a bad coaching staff. You can throw all the variables you want at me all you want. But I think swing tackle is Karan Amagaji's future. You can make a good living in the NFL as a swing tackle. That's an important position on a roster in the NFL. It just because you have Karan Amagaji doesn't mean you're not drafting a guy that could potentially be your left tackle of the future.
I want to pivot real quick to the chat that Sam Jones III just put in there, because I had this in my head, and I want to ask you, Hoge, if you think it's remotely possible. You too, Gregory, obviously. Do you think there's any chance that they turn Dexter into a DN? Move him out? Could you see that? I wonder if they would experiment with that a little bit. He would look awful nasty off that. You have to have the get off his spin.
I don't think he has the quickness.
Right, so maybe he doesn't. But I would.
I think it's far more likely that he gets kicked in even farther inside than going outside. I mean, I get it from the length and this idea Dennis Allen likes the length and all that, but I don't think he has the quick. He's not going to beat somebody off the edge.
It is hard to imagine.
Yeah.
But that size is tantalizing to think if he could do it.
Yeah. He's listed at 6'6", 312. He would need to slim down.
Well,
just to get some speed,
which he could do.
Yeah, but I don't think the quickness. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we see where that one's going long term, and I don't. It's gonna have to be a hell of a season for him to break through and to remain a Bear.
I want to ask you guys a question. We fixed center, guards fixed. We already had a right tackle, defensive tackle fixed, defensive end. We got a solution there. What's the biggest remaining need?
Safety.
The biggest.
Javon Holland's still available. I know he's probably going to come at a hefty price that the Bears can't afford, but we were talking about it earlier in the first show. I still think they need to address safety. Hoge, you can pull it up and see who's available, but I'd like them to continue to look to bring in a safety. Look up who's available, Hoge. God.
I'm looking up long snappers.
So
that's the answer to this question.
Look, I hate to make this a challenging answer, but the biggest thing that's missing is difference makers. They have added good players, but you need, if we're really talking about the Bears winning a Super Bowl, they need to hit on the draft on a difference maker, somebody who is going to catapult that offense to a next level, or somebody who's going to get to the quarterback on the defensive side. You need big time impact dudes. And as sweet as it's been in free agency, I think you've just gotten yourself back to a point where, like, if you add in a difference maker, now you're really going. So this is, it's going to come down to can Poles find that guy who's going to be, can you find a Micah Parsons at 10? Can you find a Jahmyr Gibbs at 10? Who are you adding on that teams are going to have to scheme for in a big time way week in and week out?
I completely agree. And at 39 and 41 as well, and as deep as this running back and tight end class is, if Ben Johnson can evaluate somebody that you can get later in the draft, you might be able to get a home run hitter later. That's part of the reason why I'm a little soft on drafting Ashton Genty at 10. I think if you know what you're doing, you should be able to get a running back down the road, in the later rounds that can have a big impact for your team. So I'm with you, Carm. I think they have bolstered their depth. They've added veterans to a locker room that had kind of a good mixture last year of veterans and young players, but now you got more veterans added to that room. That certainly can't hurt for the culture. And so now you've got to hit a couple home runs here in this draft with difference makers. Completely agree.
People are putting in the chat that Rome Odunze is the difference maker. Hopefully he will be. but you still need more than just Rome. Even if he is 1,000 yards.
And that's to answer Steven's question. It's either safety if you're bullish on the future of Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker going forward, or it's wide receiver 3. They have 2 guys in Rome Odunze and DJ Moore, but after that, their wide receiver room is thin. And if either guy were to get hurt, who do you have? I'm not saying they can't get by with where they're at right now, but there's no question they have to add to that room. Maybe in both free agency and the draft.
I'm going to go somewhere different with this. I think linebacker is the biggest need now. You've got 2 clear starters. You got Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, and then you got nothing but a mystery behind them. Is it Ahmed Agbagbamiga? I can't even say it. Is it Noah Sewell? I don't know. And for me, that's a very thin position right now. I don't know if it's one they attack in the draft, but they're running out of cap space here to address it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think it's a good point to bring up, and obviously I've been very clear about my opinion on the decision not to bring Jack Sanborn back. But we're not talking about a starting position there. We are talking about a guy who's got to be on the field though, about at least a quarter of the game in base defense. So it seems like you're asking a lot out of Ahmed Agbagbamiga there, and Noah Sewell got benched last year towards the end of the year. Like, he was a healthy scratch. So let's keep that in mind as well. I like where you're going with the safety, but I think if in terms of offense, I might argue with left tackle still.
Left tackle's the answer.
Because you talk about difference makers. I don't love just a competition between Braxton Jones and Karan Amagashi. I want to see more. I want to see more in that competition, and maybe that's a draft pick.
Well, that's 100% where I'm at. The Bears are still at 10, and you have Will Campbell or Armand Membo from Missouri, or Josh Simmons, if that's somebody you like, or Kelvin Banks from Texas. Somebody of those guys has to be. I just have to believe that one, like, they're all not going to fit the billing for Ben Johnson. I find that hard to believe, and I guarantee, how many of those 4 will still be available at 10? 3? Maybe even all 4?
All right, I'm going to share this tweet real quick, and then I don't know if there's.
No, sure.
We've handled this emergency pod pretty well. Maybe we'll hit some super chats on the way out. But James Palmer used to work at NFL Network. He's now with Underdog Fantasy and has done some stuff with DNVR.
Good man, decent, love him.
He wrote this about Dayo Odeyingbo. Said there's a high ceiling with Dayo, and that's why the buzz was that he was going to get paid. He doesn't turn 26 until September. Some I talked to said his sack numbers weren't there because of the Colts' defense and secondary. He does get home. The thought was it would get closer to $20 million a year, and he signed for 16. So if it works out for the Bears, really good signing.
We got value at 16 mil. Wow.
Yeah,
did not know that.
According to James Palmer, did. Do we have? We probably have some supers.
We definitely do.
We got 19 of them. Plus the ones we already read.
Crap. Greg, you want to read these while Carman and I jump on the Kennedy?
Sure.
I'll
do this. I'll wrap this show up.
He'll keep going for 3 hours. We can't allow that.
No, we're not. We're not allowing that. That's been vetoed.
Actually, Braggs, go for 3 hours. It'll be good. Dougie Fresh, $5. Can we trade up and still get Mason Graham, or trade back and get a left tackle and get either Henderson or Hampton at 39 and 41?
All the above, Dougie. Well, not all of the above.
Yeah, I don't want to trade up.
You can't trade up and trade down. But the point is, you could do any of those. It's just not all of them.
The world is Ryan Poles' oyster.
I saw Peter Schrager tweet earlier that the Bears have won the offseason again. I think there should be a trophy handed out for that award.
Yeah, but typically, time out, because we're making progress here. Because typically the Bears don't officially win the entire offseason until
the draft.
At least the end of the draft, and certainly we don't crown ourselves until training camp. So, like, the fact that we've won the offseason, day one of free agency, I think we're ahead of the normal curve of where we typically are at, right?
We didn't win it last year until they drafted Odunze, and this guy started jumping up and down on the stage like they won the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
That was
exactly.
like
so that's we still got a month and a half until then.
Right, no doubt. They're way ahead of schedule. You're absolutely.
Guys, we got a safety.
Bears signed a safety.
Safety no longer a need. Bears announced that they signed Tarvarius Moore to a 1-year extension.
That wasn't cool.
That was definitely not cool.
Why'd you do that? Why'd you do that, Hogue?
What?
Did you think
you
that
wanted
was
a
funny?
safety? They signed a safety. They just gave it to you. Why are you getting mad at me about it?
I thought you were gonna say Holland.
Yeah, they don't have the money for that.
They don't have the money for
The
that.
whole country?
Zero Demon,
Oh,
$10.
They wouldn't have had any of it. Never mind. Go ahead.
Thank you. Zero Demon, $10. Don't sleep on Dayo Odeyingbo. He's a freak athletically and has gotten better each year. Don't just look at the sacks, Greg. I think he's going to pop. Did you just slam yourself down on the table there?
Yeah, what's going on?
Because I didn't.
Where's
you
your
said
microphone?
Greg. I was the one saying don't look at his sacks earlier.
Where's your microphone?
Thank you.
There's
Zero-
no way that's coming through your microphone if your desk made that loud of a noise.
Well, Hogue audio.
I can diagnose these immediately.
Hogue
Carr knows
audio.
I'm right.
Hogue audio. Don't mess with it. Thank you, Zero Demon. And clearly the Bears aren't sleeping on Dio, to your point. Seth Crane, $20. I'm all the way back. Now trade back, get Simmons, Landon, Jackson, JT, and Caleb Johnson.
Sumoliao.
Right.
Suimo.
Just let me just say JT.
I'm challenging myself. I didn't get it right.
You guys
Steven?
want a couple Packers moves?
Samolau.
Yeah, Packers moves.
All right, so Packers sign guard Aaron Banks.
Terrible.
Stinks.
4 years, $77 million. He's a guard,
Overpay.
Horrible.
hopefully.
Sucks.
And then they also signed former Raider corner Nate Hobbs, 4 years, $48 million, 16 guaranteed.
No one's ever even heard of that guy.
It's not better than Roy Hobbs. Roy Hobbs was way better than Nate Hobbs.
Now Packers screw it again.
I mean, the green and gold is just dying a slow
a
death
mess.
up there.
What a disaster. All right, David, $4.99. Wide receiver 3 is now basically the only need left. Can go best player available throughout the draft and or trade up and down. All 3-year deals, but outs after 2. Interesting.
Yep. Well said.
Very notable.
Remember the last dang that we had in town?
Lou.
Oh, dang. Loved him.
$10 from Stephen Taylor.
Thank you,
And-
Stephen Taylor.
Thank you, Stephen Taylor.
2 more from Javen Terry. Genty, you are a Bear.
Wow.
Great avatar, Javen. Love you.
George Bayless, a.k.a. Bearlissimo. I still can't find how to unban you. I don't see you banned. He says, Jarrett still A+. Odeyingbo, good, plus upside, Bear down.
Well, isn't he unbanned if he's
It's
sending
a different account. he
No,
said.
he's
I
a
swear I
different
looked
account.
for it.
Hey, Bearlissimo Bayless. If he was still A+, the Falcons wouldn't have let him go. Let's be realistic somewhat.
Well, they had to clear up space. They were below
They
the cap.
Yeah, but they signed the left tackle. They would have pivoted the other
Are we
way.
allowed
And
to send anyone?
he doesn't need to be A+.
Send
He
him
can
to
be
the
B+.
penalty box?
Yeah.
Damn.
We never did that today.
Can we send him just for being a jerk?
Who?
Who's being a jerk?
You,
Me?
Carb. No,
Oh.
Carb.
Now, listen, the guy wants to drink his Kool-Aid every second. He can have no rational conversation whatsoever. He just wants to swim
you're
in it.
just doing the opposite day routine.
It's
I don't
not
wanna
the
hear it.
opposite. I'm talking about I'm having a conversation. I know you listen, just wear the pom-poms. Put on your honey bear outfit. Put on your honey bear outfit and dance down the streets of the region with your one leg.
Listen, you did not besmirch the name of Honey Bear. And none of these moves are ticker tape, go down the street, party with your pants off moves. But that's what this offseason was needed. Last year, we partied with our pants off for Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze and DeAndre Swift. They got all these skill guys. They even brought in Gerald Everett, who did nothing. All these skill guys. And so for a lot of fans, they built the team backwards. But now the meat and potatoes, the things that are necessary in the trenches that aren't sexy picks, just like when we drafted Darnell Wright a couple years ago. Nobody, we weren't flipping tables for when Darnell Wright was drafted, but Darnell Wright's been a good player. So you're hating on it because it's not, a Formula One race car, but sometimes you need the pickup truck, you jerk.
Yeah, it's
you know what? You're making me go back to Team Carm here, Greg.
No, don't do that. Go to the penalty box.
No. Because if we're gonna cover these signings properly, there is a reason why players who are free agents are free agents. There's always a reason why they're available, and you have to sift through what that reasoning is. And teams that quote unquote win the first day of free agency usually cut all these players 2 years later. It's well documented.
It was also
so it's not a matter about hating on anything. I think we all like these signings, but we're not just going to sit here with pom poms all day and anoint.
Yeah, but you just got done saying is Grady Jarrett a bad player, or is Grady Jarrett cut because of cap space?
Cap space. That's why I'm telling you. There's a reason for all of it. You got to sift through that. He's 31 years old. It's no guarantee that he's going to be the same Grady Jarrett. I said that off the top. I would have loved to have him 3 years ago. You get him now. And I still think he can play, so I like it. But I'm also not going to be shocked if we're in October and he's out for the year or something.
I just love that whole line of reasoning there. Like, did we go nuts on Darnell Wright? They should have picked Jalen Carter.
Which you didn't say the night of, Mr. Revisionist History. The only person on this show that said they should have was me.
I was wrong. Right here, I've said it 100 times. I can admit it. I was wrong. They should have drafted Jalen Carter.
Yeah, I like the check.
Always opposite. Like I said, it's always opposite day. So the day they should have drafted Jalen Carter, you said they shouldn't. Then 2 years later, now you're going the other way, even though Darnell Wright's been a good player. So it's always opposite day with you. Doesn't matter what it is.
Bryant, $2. Tyler Warren at 10 is in play, baby.
No, he's not. He's not in play. He's completely not in play. Always opposite.
David Reitz, $5. Seems polls emphasize culture, leadership after last year. Tooney, Jarrett, Dahlman are all regarded as locker room guys. I feel like he's been, I don't know.
Yes. I can't even do the opposite thing on this one. Yes, they needed veteran leadership.
They had bad guys though in the locker room.
They had no leadership on that offensive line. None. Okay. Hey there, Ryan Bates. Will you be the alpha dog in the room? Excuse me, I've never been that in my life.
But that's not what Joe Tooney is. We've had people tell us that. Joe Tooney's a lead by example guy.
We had people on this show say that he absolutely will get in their face. I don't know why we're just we did.
Did
yes.
I black out?
Yes, you did. We've had multiple people say that.
I didn't hear that. I think you had a dream about that.
Go back and check the tape.
Who said it?
Carrington Harrison said it. Who else do we have on from Kansas City?
We had Verderam.
Verderam said the same thing. But
Carrington said he was a lead by example guy. I was in that interview.
I followed up. Will he, if he sees something, absolutely he will. Go back and watch the tape.
All right. Hall of Famer. Hit that like button, says Dougie Fresh. $2. I don't like that avatar, though. Get out of here with that Michigan stuff. Melissa.
There's a reason the Chiefs got rid of Tooney. Must be because he sucks.
Who said that?
Opposite day, Carm.
Listen. It's Honey Bear, and he's upset. Right. Yes, there is. He's 32 years old, and his best days are past him. And hopefully,
stop calling me Honey Bear.
You're forever Honey Bear to me now.
You two need to get your own show somewhere else.
Melissa, we've got
$5.
I won't call you Honey Bear. Your name is Staley. Forever now, you're Staley.
Best move for Bears was Mac re-signing with the Chargers. Okay.
I didn't hate that.
Shout out, Melissa. Appreciate your super.
I would have been yelled at for being negative, but I didn't hate that at all.
Dominic, $10. Go Bears. Great show, guys. Thank you, Dominic.
Thank you, Dominic.
Chris H, $2 super chat. Don't know if there's anything attached to it, but we appreciate you. Thank you, Chris. Jeff with a $5 super. Ashton Genty is a Bear. He wants to be a Bear.
We hear the enthusiasm, Jeff.
Siddharth Ariga, I hope I'm saying that right. $5. Feels like the Bears have done the obvious thing at great market value this year in non-obvious ways outside of Dolman. No Trey Smith, no problemo.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Johnny DeVivo, $20.
Johnny.
Thank you,
I loved it. Look at the way DeVivo just stands over a kitchen and just he lords over the podcast with that move. DeVivo. He's a positive guy.
Nick.
He would never say anything bad about the Bears.
How do you say his last name, Greg?
Kuchokos.
Come on. It's Nick Coochie-Coo, my guy. Coochie-Coo is here. Nick Koch Oak Os Coochie-Coo.
Well, Nick is like
way to go, Nick.
In Bragg's world here. He says, I just got out of spinal fusion surgery. My first question after was, did the Bears get Mac? Okay with all the signings. Good job taking advantage. Rookie quarterback contract. Hope your recovery goes well, Greg. We hope yours goes well too, Nick. That's a serious surgery. Greg just had his knee ligament replaced. He's fine.
I honestly, yes. He's in a much tougher spot. So rest up, Nick, and hopefully you get back better than ever, and look forward to meeting you one of these days.
Nick, if anybody's wondering, Nick and Greg will be on a Spaces later called Recovering Surgical Patients Talk Bears.
And they'll sing the song Rock and Roll Coochie Coo. It'll be great together.
Ethan Wilson, $5. We just signed Dayo Odeyingbo. But do you guys see us going edge at 10? I'd like to take Genty if possible. Who do you guys like at edge? I like Walker.
It's the $1 million question right now. Really, Ethan.
Yeah. I'm not going to pick a guy right here on the spot, but I am okay if they go edge. I'm definitely still okay with that. You need more than 2 defensive ends. Now, the question is, how much do they like Austin Booker?
Mm-hmm.
That's a guy who's still on the roster, and if he can get into more of a rotational, more reliable spot this year, that would greatly help. I am fascinated, though, by the shift we've seen in Ashton Genty. A month ago, I feel like everybody was like, there's no way in hell you can draft Ashton Genty, and now with these moves, everybody seems okay with it, except for Carm. He's negative.
Negative.
$10. Trade Bagent to the Steelers and bring back Keenan as QB2.
Let me tell you what Carm will do.
Keenan Allen?
If the Bears draft Ashton Genty, Carm will monitor every running back behind him to monitor which one is better than Ashton Genty. And if they don't draft Ashton Genty, he will obsess over Ashton Genty being a generational talent that the Bears passed on. That's what he'll do.
Let me tell you what Greg will do. If they draft Ashton Genty and he doesn't get yards, he'll blame it on the offensive line. He'll blame it on the system. He'll blame it on Bears fans. He'll blame it on everything. And then when they punt on him, then he'll say, he was no good. I was wrong. And then after that, he'll keep on going. Seth Conklin, $2. Trade down and take Ursery?
He's an offensive tackle from Minnesota.
I like him.
Yeah, you got breakdown on
About
Ursery.
a late first rounder, though. I don't know. Seems like
Golden Gophers got no chance on Wednesday against the Cats. Thank you, Seth.
I highly recommend not drafting Gophers, though, in general.
Guess what the Golden Gophers head coach's name is?
PJ Fleck?
No, I'm talking about for basketball. He was talking about basketball.
Okay, well, this is a football show, so I'm not going to apologize for
He
thinking.
brought up He said Minnesota Northwestern. He said Minnesota Northwestern.
It was my fault.
The answer to Greg's question, though, is Ben Johnson is the head coach of Minnesota, and
Thank you.
He's a solid coach for as bad as they are.
Ain't no Chris Collins. I see you, CC.
Okay.
You're 12.
Hey, isn't that crazy? It's been 12 years. I remember his introductory presser.
Talk about a guy who's aged.
Yeah.
Ain't tough. That job will take it. It'll do it to you.
Me and Chris Collins.
Yeah. No, it's tough sledding here. Fishbach.
And the one common denominator is that Carm is sitting by us every game.
That's true. Collins never comes over to where I sit. Alex Fishbach, the fishy. Will Johnson or Jade Barron would be excellent picks at 10. Stevenson isn't a lock by any means.
I am interested in how they view Stevenson. Because it's a new defensive coordinator, and we do know that the last guy was enabling players. So if Dennis Allen, now there's no denying Tyreek Stevenson's talent here, but I wouldn't be shocked if that's a short leash with Tyreek Stevenson.
A lot of talent there. I'd like to think
it could go one or two ways really quickly, I feel like. Extension in a year to gone in a year and replace.
Yeah, I agree.
But the talent's there.
Reality is coming for some in that locker room. It already came for Jack Sanborn, unfortunately, for us San God fandoms.
Sorry to break. I already booked a trip for Canton in 10 years for Jack Sanborn.
No, you know he's going. Gardner back with $1.99. How is Hoge still sane after hours with Carm?
I'm not.
It's the other way around, Gardner.
Gardner.
Excuse me. Been a long day.
I'm not saying we've established that with the gray hair thing. But thank you, Gabe. I appreciate you being worried about my well-being.
Steven Taylor, $2. How many wins the Bears get this year? The Bears have this year? What do you think? What do you think he meant by het?
I think we understand the question either way. I'm going to go with 17.
Greg?
How many wins this year?
Yeah.
15.
There you go.
Honey Bear. Pom-poms.
Yeah, I mean, what are the two games they're going to lose?
That's hard to pick, honestly.
Yeah,
Any of their road games, the road schedule's ridiculous.
Honey Bear doesn't go. Honey Bear doesn't go on the road, so it'll happen there. Troy Schlicker, Nick Eminwari looking even better now for the Bears. All holes addressed. Best player available. The way to do it. Trust in bed, my glorious king.
Okay.
TIB. We gotten rid of hits for TIB.
I do love that, we are at the point of the season. I love the NFL draft, so I mean this sincerely, that an emergency podcast about two defensive players
that no one's ever heard of.
What?
See, there it is. If you polled the chat, what percent of people, how many people that are watching right now thought that they were going to say Dayo Odeyingbo today and could give you a breakdown?
Okay, but are you putting Grady Jarrett in that same category?
No, I stretched it. I understand.
Yeah, you might want to save yourself on that one.
But you get the point.
Best players in the
you
league
get the
for
point.
a
I was
decade.
backing you up.
No, my point was that this is an emergency free agency podcast, and it has shifted completely into draft talk.
Oh, I missed the point.
Yeah, because you started talking over my point.
That's terrible. I'll never do it again.
See, Gabe's right. Now I'm definitely not sane. Greg?
Team Braggs.
How's your knee?
It's doing good. I think I should get some credit, too, for being able to get home in time for this show. Like, in the fashion that we did.
Stalled for like 15 minutes for you, buddy.
Stalled. All right, fine, if that's what we're going to call it.
Let me get this straight. You brought bagels in this morning. We did the show.
Jenny brought in bagels.
Mm-hmm. You did the show. We got so excited afterwards. We're going to have this big lunch bagel feast. And you took the bagels home?
No, they're in the fridge.
See, nobody told me that. I thought he took the bagels with him.
Look at he tried to bus toss me, and you missed.
It didn't
If
work.
you're going to come for the king, you best not miss.
Thank you so much. I'm fired up for my post-second pod stack. Thank you.
The reason why I know they're in the fridge was because I went in there to get my lunch, and whoever put them in the fridge just rudely shoved my lunch all the way in the back.
Good move by Jenny.
Instead of being like, well, maybe I could put this on the open top shelf and then fit it in here.
Not only did Jenny play chaperone and get Honey Bear here today, she went across the street and got us bagels, and then she chaperoned Honey Bear home, and now we're taking shots at Jenny. This is terrible. Jenny, we love
Are
you.
Going chauffeur or chaperone?
Both.
Okay.
He needs an adult with him at all times.
I'm going to go ahead and end this show. Another reminder to become a diehard. Great $36 deal going on right now to celebrate free agency. Get it now. allchgo.com/intro. Intro offer. Get you in the door right now. Fran Duffy's entire draft guide. All of our diehard content here with free agency. I'll have some stuff up. Pat Norton already has some stuff up. I'll have some stuff up as well. Some reactions, some breakdowns. It's all for you. Become a diehard now. And also, if you're new to the channel, please hit subscribe. Please check out the podcast. Every episode is available as a podcast as well. Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your pods. Go check it out. We are far from done this week. We have a whole bunch of stuff lined up. Tomorrow we'll be back at noon, if not earlier. I don't know if there's enough space here to warrant another emergency podcast. I mean, cap space, but could be. Can't rule it out. We'll be ready if necessary, just like this one. Tomorrow at noon will be our regular show. We'll have availability at House Hall later this week, too, that we'll cover with all these new guys getting introduced. A lot of new blood coming in. Some good players as well. We're up to five big-time acquisitions that need to be introduced at House Hall this week. So that'll be all coming your way. We'll have everything covered as always. So make sure you're following us at CHGO_Bears for all the latest. For now, until we talk to you, whenever that is, hopefully noon tomorrow. Talk to you later.
We all silly like the mayor.